Officially, in terms of the press conference and game week, our team's really excited. It's the healthiest I think that the team has been coming out of two-a-days since I've been the coach. Our coaching staff has done, I think, a really nice job preparing us to this point. Still some uncertainty as to what we're going to be defending and what we're going to be going against in terms of their defense, as a lot of those questions are, I think, fairly common in the first game. And from our standpoint, we have a lot of returning players. I know from Ole Miss's standpoint, they have a few key players they're replacing in pretty critical spots. And so to really predict the outcome or predict how the game will go, that'll be difficult. So really most of the focus is on just ourselves, our schemes, our execution. And it will put quite a bit of emphasis on game day and then matching up to what we see that we hadn't predicted, or maybe we predicted right and guessed right, and the schemes and things we're prepared for match. Other than that, today's the first day of school for our players, which normally leads to a little bit more difficulty in practice. The players are usually a little bit more distracted and tired. I think we've adjusted our practice structure to reflect that. We got an extra day of work on Saturday to try to take that into account. And other than that, I'm not sure what other issues to address. So I'll answer questions if you have questions regarding things that I haven't talked about yet, if there are any.
What do you know about your team today that maybe you didn't know a month ago?
You know, maybe the good news is there aren't many surprises. You know, I liked our team coming out of spring practice. I liked their competitive spirit after the spring game. Not having any contact with them for the spring and summer semesters, I think maybe the biggest mysteries or things that I've learned was who was really committed during the spring and summer, and you can kind of tell by their conditioning and how they finished camp. Some of the players, you can tell they're maybe didn't have the summers necessary, and they were a little bit more injury prone this summer, or maybe they dropped a spot in terms of the depth because of their summer preparation. So I think our current depth going into the Ole Miss game really reflects what I did find out, maybe more individually than collectively as a team. I like our team. I think we have a lot of depth, and I think we have good players. A few individuals here and there I think might have slid on the chart because of maybe a spring and summer semester not as committed as they need to be. Are there other questions?
Bronco, if I could ask you to be philosophical about this opener. Is it much like your first, when this is a new frontier, things like that, or is it like your seventh? How would you describe it?
No, it's nothing like the first one. There aren't nearly as many questions from not only myself personally, but for our team. And I think if you were to try to draw any similarity, the expectations, I think there was a lot of optimism and hope and excitement. But remember, the first game wasn't even sold out. If you now were to talk about the expectations where we are now, much, much higher based on the kind of program that we've had for the past 6 years. So now it's not only is that expected, it's expected to do that and then take another significant jump, which I think we're prepared for, and I'm hopeful we're prepared for, not only personally, but as a team. And so I really don't liken it to the first season at all. I liken it to just the next step after 6 years to improve the program. Other things?
From a national perspective, whether people put stock in it or not, what do you think it says about your team that people are picking you to go on the road to an SEC team and win?
I think that it's just established credibility that's been built over 6 years. We've won a lot of games over the past 6 years, and we've beaten some good teams. And so when you consider the consistency we have shown, not just 1 year, but over the last 6 years, and when you then consider a returning quarterback and a lot of returning players, I don't think it's anything negative against Ole Miss. I think it's just a compliment based on credibility earned. And again, predictions don't mean much. We still have to go play and play well, and we think it'll be a very difficult game against a formidable opponent. But I do like that there's confidence in our program, which is what I think it says. Maybe not confidence necessarily in this specific team. I think early season predictions a lot of times reflect confidence in programs, and that's, I think, what I would read into it.
Conference expansion has reared its head again. And do you have any comments on the future of college football and maybe your involvement in that?
You know, I can't speak on us specifically, and nor do I know who's contacting us, if anyone's contacting us, or even if they want to. Tom can address all that. But in terms of predictions and the direction, you know, maybe 10 years ago there was an undercurrent kind of when the head coaches were meeting, et cetera, of super conferences, or even within Division I, maybe 40 schools or so kind of moving into another type of echelon, et cetera. And I think with some of the movement that you're seeing and some of the super conferences, so to speak, being combined, I see it moving in that direction. How that'll be pulled off and when, I'm not sure, but I see more and more of that, especially the topics when the head coaches get together, of those that have budgets and have money and have support, not wanting to be held by those that are struggling for those things. And so that parity and that equity is a consistent problem, and it's brought up a lot. And so I think that's going to remain in place for a while, and eventually it will come to a head, which I think is getting relatively close.
Following up on that, do you see BYU as part of one of those super conference?
I think our job is to earn our way in, and I think that we certainly deserve recognition and consideration. I think that my job is to make sure we don't leave any doubt, and that's whenever that is to happen. With the number of games again that we're winning and the rankings that we're achieving, I think it'd be difficult for us not to be in consideration. But again, the next 3 years, I would say, is going to be critical, especially to the national landscape.
And then, Coach, last year you mentioned 75% of your team was like freshmen or sophomores, and that was maybe your biggest concern. What is your biggest concern this year with this team, and what is kind of keeping you up at night?
You know, just helping them reach their potential. You know, I have very few concerns about the team. More is just making sure that myself and our coaches are giving this team their best chance. Because I think they have a lot of potential. I think they have a lot of depth. I think they have a lot of talent. And I think they're good players and good people. And so really what's keeping me up is more my own performance and our organization's performance, trying to help this team reach their goals.
Coach, a lot of people say the Southeastern Conference is the elite in college football. Thoughts, BYU doesn't play these teams very often. Thoughts about going there and playing a team?
I'm anxious to see how we measure and how we fit against them. National champions have come out of the SEC the last couple of years at least, and football is a really big thing. And knowing the SEC coaches, their lives are quite different. And I don't know how much different they are in relation to mine as the coach at BYU, but there's a lot of pressure, a lot of exposure, and football is a big thing in the South. They have a lot of talent, they have good coaching, a good tradition at almost every school, and so again, I'm anxious to see and compete against those teams, maybe on a yearly basis, to see where we stack.
They have some quarterback questions. Do you approach your defense any differently, knowing they have two guys that are coming in and out?
You know, I really don't. Other than I reflect back to last year, and two quarterbacks are hard because it affects the chemistry on your team, and so all I've tried to do is predict what that might do in leading to scheme. That's really how I've addressed the defensive players, not so much as who the quarterback is, but what they might do because of who the quarterback is. And I don't know enough about them to really highlight strengths or weaknesses, so it's mostly what we think they're going to do, and then focusing on ourselves to get our execution as sound as possible.
And how do you prepare your team to go down there in that weather conditions? Are you concerned with humidity and what you might face in an afternoon game in Mississippi?
Yeah, it's going to be hot and it's going to be humid, and there's no way to simulate it here. We've done extra conditioning, we've done extra running. We've told them it's going to be hot and humid, and we've been to Florida State. I've coached at Louisiana Tech. Some of our coaches have been elsewhere, and our training staff is ready. But there's a fine line between not making too big a deal of it as well, because they're going to be tired, they're going to be hot, and that's kind of part of football as well.
The Ole Miss quarterback does have the ability to be mobile. In the past, mobile quarterbacks have caused some problems. Do you think this defense is better equipped to handle that?
I hope so. I think we have more speed. I think we have more experience, and I certainly have more experience now after 6 years. And if you remember, man, we've seen some of the best mobile quarterbacks in the country probably the last 3 years. And so we have, I think, more experience to to draw from, and I think our players that play here have been part of that experience. So I think they'll know more what to expect, and again, just by nature, a mobile quarterback causes problems because again, most zone coverages and most coverages in general are not designed to cover the quarterback. They're designed to cover running backs and receivers. So if you don't have the right people on the field in terms of pressure and athletes, sometimes you get outrun. And I think we have a few more packages now that might be able to help us.
How much input have you had with Coach Doman about how you might use Riley?
Quite a bit from just a philosophical or overall perspective. That's where I do most of my thinking, is big picture and broad spectrum. And then after I share that with our coaches, I expect them to get to the specifics of this type of play in this situation, etc. So all I've done is express my expectations to not only our offensive staff, but our special team staff and how it might be used. And then their job is to design the schemes and strategy to meet the bigger picture expectations that I've shared with them.
Coach, you and your team talked about winning a national championship in Media Day about a month ago. Do you guys feel more pressure to win now as an independent, because it's much harder to do that?
You know, I don't know if it's harder or not. My guess is our access to the BCS will be the exact same. We have to go undefeated. And we'll probably have to do it a number of years. So if you're able to do that, and again, I'm thinking about what my ideal is and what my dream is for the program, is that a national championship, I believe, is possible, knowing that we'll have to go undefeated at least once to get into a BCS game. You'll probably have to win that game, and then you'll probably have to go undefeated again, probably within a relatively short amount of time to get the nod to then have that opportunity. So it's certainly difficult, but I'm not going to say it's not possible.
Anything else?
All right, thanks a lot.